Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the CHABAD House of DELMAR, together with my co-host, Mark Warren, which is statewide news service, jbiztechvalley.com, and as you can see here, weekly columnist for the Jewish press.
Yep, I'm having a lot of fun doing all of that, and what I write about in the Jewish press and on my website is about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. And you wouldn't believe this, but another part of our government are the school boards. And with us today is Kenny Bruce, the president of the Albany School Boards, Albany City School Board.
Shalom.
Yes, shalom. And welcome to the Jewish View, first time.
Thank you for having me.
Kenny, let's start off with the basic civics. How did you get to be on the school board? How do you get to be the president of the school board? And what is the function of the school board?
Right, thank you. So, school board members are elected to a 4-year term.
How many are there in Albany?
7 total, and it's a citywide election, so each school board member represents the whole city. It's not unlike the Common Council where you represent a ward. It's a staggered term, so each year we have 2 or 3 positions opening.
Every year, every 2 years?
Well, actually every year. It's
Really?
staggered, so every year we have either 1 or 2,
Yeah.
of the 7, right?
Why do you think there's such a low turnout in terms of voting for the school board members?
Well, we're elected as part of the general election, so it actually is a reasonably large turnout.
It's not with the school budget?
It's not with the school budget.
Oh, it's in November.
So, I mean, a common council member can range from 500 to 1,500 votes. Actually, school board members are generally in the thousands.
It's the whole city.
It's the whole city.
And how much let's say for you particularly, how much does it cost you to run for this volunteer position?
Right. For me, lawn signs, publicity, it was in the $7,000 range. Yeah.
And you have to make that up from donations or your personal, because it's volunteer, like Mark said. Sometimes people get elected, they pay money, but they get a nice salary afterwards, and here
right,
they're getting nothing back.
Your nice salary is 0. Yeah, but I did have contributors who covered the...
And how do you get to be the president, as you are?
So each year we have
a special election, or no?
Well, it's a reorganization meeting in January where the 7 school board members decide who will be their president, vice president, and secretary.
Did everyone line up and everyone took 2 steps back except you?
I think that's about how it happened. This year it's been an interesting year. So our reorganization meeting was disrupted by several different groups who had a lot to say. So it was a contested election. I received 4 votes of the 7, so it obviously wasn't a mandate. But it was enough to make me the president. Another board member ran against me and received 2 votes, and then there was 1 abstention.
And was that Sue Adler ran against? I don't remember.
Dr. Rose Brandon ran against me.
Oh, Rose Brandon. Oh, yeah. She was the school board president.
She was the school board president, not last term, but the term before that.
Right.
Jenny Farrell was last term, and she was 2 terms ago.
Right, okay.
So every year you have to kind of run, just running amongst your own members, but...
Yes, every year in the reorganization meeting, which is in January, which is when the new board members actually join the board, there's an election to elect new officers.
But now you have a big news there, Albany. That vote came through. It was a contested vote that you're going to remodel, or is it build a new Albany High School?
Well, it's a mixture of rebuild, renovate, and then there's also some new construction as well. There'll be a new academic tower, which is kind of behind the gymnasium. When I say behind, I'm thinking of Washington Avenue as the front. So we had a referendum for a larger scale project in November, which did not pass. And then we brought it back in February with a slightly smaller project.
$184 million.
Well, 179
179 million?
179,900,000.
That's
Was
gonna
it-
be
What is this,
bonded,
like a car? Like you just get
Yeah.
up below 180,000? Okay.
like your gas, 29.9.
So
But that's gonna be bonded? That's how it's gonna.
Oh, yes, it will be, the bonds will pay for it over a 30-year period, staggered issuance of bonds over the essentially 2 years preparation for the build and then up to 7 years for the build.
But they'll continue the high school while they're building? It sounds like a totally different building.
No, yes, we
Yeah,
will
just
continue.
Right there.
Right there, and we'll try to do a lot of construction over the summers,
Yeah, when
and
the kids aren't there.
as I said, the other academic tower will be the first thing that's built. So then we can close down
Yeah.
pieces
That's smart.
accordingly. Yeah, the construction of the current Albany High School it's built in 4 different towers essentially, so we can take
Move around, yeah.
Right. Yes.
Now, this is a 5-year plan.
So it's a 2-year to do the design and get SED approval.
State Education Department approval.
Yes, yes, thank you. And then 7 years of construction.
After that.
Yes.
So it's
Total.
more like a 10-year, let's say the better part of 10 years before we see the reality.
The completed project, right, will be done.
Okay, now, what was
9
amazing to me with this, and I'll just bring it up gently because we got a lot of things to go through today, is that you made, not you personally, but the general you, made a big deal about the Brooklyn Institute and how you have a problem with the students crossing Washington Avenue, going there, or getting on the shuttle that brings them there, or the amount of time it takes to go from Albany High to Brooklyn, and yada, 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 you know, there's all these reasons. And then, at the end of the day, that's the last thing to be built, or to be incorporated in with the new high school.
Right.
And I'm just like, if it was such a big deal where for student safety and the time students spend in class and, you know, all of this, like, this was left for last? You know, that's my observation, I'm sorry, I just had to tell you.
Right, so we needed an initial plan to present to the taxpayers for a referendum for approval. There could be changes to the plan. I mean, they have to be actually along the same lines of what we presented, but we could change the order here and there. There are concerns all around. So our primary concern is the roof, which we actually just received approval for, and we're going to do that this summer. And then there's concerns around the population of the school. We're overcrowded, so we're going to address that by building the new tower first. And then a lot of it is actually just subject to what makes sense from an architectural and engineering standpoint around when we can actually execute the pieces of the plan.
And it's just amazing how because of the science and because of the architect, the way the rebuild spreads out, that this is, that one of the most important pieces gets pushed off to the end.
You know, one of the
But
things.
I do want to mention, I'm sorry,
All right, go
I do
ahead.
want to mention that I was shocked to hear that the walls don't go all the way up to the ceiling in the school, and you can hear what goes on in the other classroom.
That is, I don't know that that's universally true. The walls were not constructed very well, so there is a lot of noise that actually goes between classrooms for various different reasons. They're also not sturdy walls, they're thin walls, 1970s construction. And then they've changed the walls in different places. So yeah, it's a problem, and we'll address that. in
And
the
why do you
rebuild.
need a pool in a school when you're trying to save here and there? I mean, you have so many other activities and so many other things to keep the kids healthy and keep their, you know, skills and physical fitness up. I mean, why do you need a pool? I mean, I didn't have a pool in my high school in Brooklyn, and I survived. I mean, you know.
Right. Well, you can survive without one, but it is an important alternative. Swimming is an important skill that, lots of children enjoy doing and find a benefit from learning.
I think this is a segue what I wanted to ask Mark. It was just that, it's always nice to have a nice building. Who's going to argue, rather have a nice building than a lousy building? But on the other hand, what was ultimately the purpose? Do you think that the kids are going to learn better? I mean, that would go with the swimming pool. Hey, we got a nice place. We can, spend our energy in gym or a nice pool, and maybe they'll drop out rate was less, and it's so nice. Hey, we got a pool here. This is a nice club. Yeah, I'm not making fun. I think that maybe, sometimes, I know that. How can a child learn? Sometimes see these dilapidated buildings or libraries. It just makes you, hey, I want to go there, and hey, it's a nice place to be. I mean, is that the ultimate idea behind it?
Well, there is some messaging around new and old, but I think ultimately our reasoning really revolves around need. So the student population is growing, so we need more space.
Albany is really growing?
Well, it has to do with the charter schools, right?
No, it really has to do with, actually the Albany student population is growing.
Okay.
It's pretty good. So
Yeah. And the other need is increased safety and security.
Right.
We built a building when there was a different level of concern around safety
Right.
and security, and we have
The line of
any
sight-
number of
line-
any doors.
The line of sight issues are
Right.
a real problem in that school. And, the security, it's a nightmare for security in terms of being able to detect someone that's going to do something adverse, beforehand, so.
Right, and we're closing in the courtyard, which will create a unified academic environment. The courtyard is actually nice in the summer, but because because of the design of the building, it has so many required exit doors that, again, there's so many doors to watch and man and secure. And back to the pool question, I think it's really important to provide alternatives, and students throughout the districts swim in our two pools. We have one at Myers and one at the high school, so students are bused to swim. It's important to them, and it's important to their families. And I also believe that physical fitness in general is very important. And if you look at our athletic field, we fast-tracked it and built it. And,
Right.
but if you drive by during a school day, gym classes are out there, they're using the field, the kids are engaged, the kids are moving around.
Okay, well, speaking of moving, we got to
Right.
move on.
Okay.
And we wanted to talk about receivership.
Okay.
And that concept, and what does that mean, and what does that mean for the Albany School District?
Right. So receivership is it's very similar to, well, let me not go that direction.
Okay.
It grants extra authority to the superintendent or the receiver. In this particular instance, the State Education Department granted receivership or receiver status to the superintendent in place. So it's the office of the superintendent. The superintendent can do what she believes necessary to improve those schools that are in receivership without adversely or significantly adversely impacting the other schools. What the government is saying is focus on the schools that have been failing most often or struggling most often. So we have 3 receivership schools. One was Hackett. Hackett actually was recently removed from the receivership list. It had 1 year to turn around and show basically...
Who decides if it's in receivership?
The State Ed Department.
Right, so...
And they look at every school to see if they're up to snuff?
Performing, how they're performing.
Oh,
Right, it's actually quite complicated in that it was the governor's initiative. He handed it down in legislation. State Education Department actually executes it after the legislative branch kind of defines it. And the determination around which schools were in receivership and which schools were not was based on actually federal lists of performance. So anyway, Hackett had a one-year receivership, which meant it had to show demonstrable improvement in 1 year, and it actually did that and is no longer considered a receiver school. Albany High School and Philip Schuyler Academy, which is an elementary school over by Bleecker Stadium, those two had 2-year receiverships, and so within 2 years they have to show demonstrable improvement. And there are various different metrics to determine if they have or haven't. And again, the superintendent is granted extra powers within these schools to execute.
And the current interim superintendent is a former principal of a middle school, so she kind of knows what to expect and how to speak the same language as these other leaders of these schools.
Yes, she does. She's been great so far. She had extensive experience throughout the school district. She was a teacher, she was an assistant principal, she was a principal at an elementary school, she was a teacher at the high school, and then last for 10 years she was a principal at the middle school.
Right.
And
What's her name?
Dr. Kimberly Wilkins.
Okay.
And
Is it sometimes fair, we've had so many people on the Jewish View here about school superintendents, but you get kids from a poor neighborhood and the parents aren't giving them the support. You know, just as saying you have to look at where the kids are coming from also. I mean, did you ever see that? I mean, I've had teachers in some inner city schools just saying kids come without pencils and the parents don't even show up for parent-teacher conferences. And, the parents, of course, are very important. Hey, I want you to get out there and achieve. If the parents are on the street or they don't care or there's one-parent households, so the child is not going to care that much also. So then the school looks like that they're inferior.
right.
I don't know, you got to compare apples to apples.
Right. So our students, many of our students have significant challenges, socioeconomic challenges, and experience some of the things you just mentioned. It's the role of the school district to actually educate all of Albany's children and provide to them an education based on their needs. Different students from different areas in the city have substantially different needs. So we do find ourselves addressing things that you wouldn't think of as classically involved with the school district.
My theory has always been the PPP principle, where it's the parents, professionals, and peers. So the weakest leg of that tripod is the one that's going to be the failing of the student. So if the parents aren't engaged, that's going to be the problem, where it's going to fall over, the tripod will fall over. The professionals, if they don't notice certain things about a student's engagement in education, that's where the weak link will be. And then the peers, if the kid is hanging out with the wrong group, then boom, that's going to fall over and everything will fall apart. So
Right.
that's why I say P plus P and equals
Right.
success, because if you have
Three
three strong
Ps.
legs,
Right.
then you go into...
I mean, that sounds like a great theory, but though as a school district, we don't influence all of those pieces. So that's the challenge.
You don't influence the peers and the parents. All you do is influence the professional side.
Right. So
Right. That's why I'm saying, there are some things that are out of your control, but...
Yes, they are. Yeah.
I want to talk to you mentioned the superintendent. Are you calling her Dr. Kimberly now, like Dr. V? And it's like,
Dr. Wilkins.
Dr. Wilkins.
Right.
Okay. So,
Well, Dr. V had a long last name. So
Yeah, I know.
Vanden Weingarten. Yeah.
So are you going to appoint her? Is there going to be a decision made, or are you still going through a search, or what's happening with the next superintendent?
Right, so a tentative timeline is that, the board has begun training around hiring a superintendent. We had one training already with the BOCES superintendent. We'll have another one with New York State School Board Association. And we've started talking about it. We have a general timeline and some strategies that are in place, although we haven't reached any final decisions. We're going to engage the community, which means we're going to ask what the community would like to see in their superintendent. and get some feedback around what they believe is important. And then we'll structure.
Well, it sounds like a 2-year process. It sounds like what you're laying out here is not going to be quick.
Well, it's probably a 1-year process from about now.
Okay.
Right. So over the summer, we'll continue the training. We hope to have the community discussion in the fall. We hope to lay out some requirements in our next
And
superintendent.
is this going to be a nationwide search for a superintendent?
We are planning on a national search.
So
right.
basically, and you could end up with Dr. Wilkins after all that.
We could very well end up with Dr. Wilkins.
But it costs money. It costs the school district money to go out and do all this.
Right.
Yeah,
Although
it may be worth it, but
hiring a superintendent is the most important thing a school board does, actually.
Okay.
So, and it's the most important thing for the school district and for the community. We have to have the right superintendent in place in order to get the outcome and the performance that we
absolutely.
that
Did
we
you read
desire.
the book From Good to Great?
I have not, but
Okay. When
I have
you
to get around to it.
Get
yeah.
around to it because it's a book that tells you how to put the right people in the right place in the right bus at the right time and, make it fit well. So if you haven't read, I'll give you a copy if you want, but.
Okay, yeah, I'd love it.
Okay.
So anyway, the most
I
important
presume
piece.
you're a good reader. I mean, it's like, you're in a library, you better say yes.
Right, yes, I am. Right. The most important piece there is actually just developing and understanding what the community wants. I mean, the board is the community's representatives, and sometimes it's not always clear what our role is, but we represent the community, and we have a little more information than most people,
Right.
and they trust us to make the appropriate decisions to deliver the education
But
that
they
they're
want to be
looking
heard
for.
also.
They definitely want to be heard, yes.
So let me ask you this about your background, because I like to personalize all this. You're just not a title, you're just not a name.
Right.
Where did you grow up? Are you from Albany? What was your education background?
Right, so I grew up on 2nd Street, a few blocks from here, 2nd and Swan, which at the time was...
Just for our viewers, we're at the main branch of the Albany Library.
Oh, right.
Don't say that.
So,
Right. So
Second
in
Swan.
Arbor Hill,
Okay, yeah.
I went to St. Joseph's Academy Elementary School, which is the church with the big steeples.
Okay.
So I lived between the church and the school. The school is now the Albany Barn, which is the arts district. So we lived there through 6th grade, and then we moved over to the other side of the city near Whitehall Road, just behind School 23, which is now Ash. I went there for a year for 7th grade, and then went to Christian Brothers Academy in 8th grade when it was over near Albany Med, and went there for high school as well.
and then for college, you went to Princeton?
And for college, I went to Princeton.
Okay, so you basically had a private school upbringing?
Except for a little over a
1
year.
year,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, I did. I had a private school upbringing. Although, I mean, I guess this leads into my connection to the public schools. My sister was a public school teacher for 35 years in Albany, primarily at Giffen, Arbor Hill, and the precursors to some of those schools, School
Okay.
7, and the numbers I forget.
Right.
But
So she knows
basically,
the area.
right. And my mother and my aunt were teachers' assistants, or teachers' aides. We spent a lot of time talking about the
So
school district.
they literally grab your ear and they pull you over and say, this is what you need to do, and fix this,
Right, right. And my father was an outstanding athlete at Albany High School.
Okay.
And felt like the optimal situation for me was Christian Brothers. I was an athlete as well.
What did you do?
I played football and ran track, and I did that in high school. I did that in college.
You did also football, huh? So
Yeah.
you can tackle some of the school board members. If they don't follow your lead. It's like,
Well, I'm the only gentleman on the school board.
you're the
They're
only.
all-
It's all women otherwise.
It's all women, yes.
Oh wow! Isn't that strange?
I don't think they'd appreciate being tackled.
Isn't that strange? Well, it shows you what I know. Okay, and then
What's your profession now, though?
Now I have an investment advisory firm that's primarily a consultancy. It advises on just investment ideas and structuring and investment
So you have a little
companies.
free time, if you can say that. I mean, wiggle room. It's not 9 to 5, so You can
Right.
dedicate yourself to the school board a little more.
Right.
At your own pace.
I've had a lot of flexibility, and I've made a lot of flexibility over the last year. This has been a challenging year for the school district. So yeah, I've made some time.
You know, I don't always believe what I read, but I read that something that you declared bankruptcy at one point in your
I did.
life, and you had to for some reason, or?
I did declare bankruptcy. There were two issues. One issue is I had a business disagreement with the estate of a partner who actually, a former partner who died in the World Trade Center, that we could never fully resolve. And then I had a 6-year cancer challenge. Basically, I had colon cancer, and the tumor had moved through my colon and was located along the spinal nerve. So it involved 3 very, very major surgeries and over 15 minor surgical medical procedures and 1,000 hours of chemotherapy and chemoradiation therapy. So it was a 6
You're
years.
doing well now, though?
I'm doing well now.
Yeah, you look good.
Yeah,
That's what I
thank
was
you.
going to say.
I have to do the math.
29 over, that's my age.
50 something.
50-something.
Right.
So this happened while you were in your 40s. I mean, you were pretty young.
Yes,
And,
yeah, I was. Yeah,
So
and
you went for cancer screenings regularly, or you just weren't feeling well?
I woke up one day and said I was dying, and it took me 2 years to figure out exactly what it was. I'd gone to actually a lot of hospitals, a lot of medical practitioners. I even bought a major insurance contract. I thought, their interests would be aligned with my own, and if there was some concern, they would find it. They actually didn't. So then I started just working out like crazy, and I walked into a doctor's office one day and said, "There's something back there." And they did a CT scan, and then we did another colonoscopy, and they were able to find it.
Wow. So
Yeah.
well, that's just an amazing story. So it was because you weren't able to work, and this was debilitating, this cancer, and
Oh yeah.
And-
Yeah, I couldn't work for.
so it just shows the
Several
people
years,
that that here's a medical issue that forced you to declare bankruptcy.
Yes, yeah, a medical issue forced me
I mean, it
to
wasn't.
declare bankruptcy. Yes,
No,
yeah.
it wasn't mismanagement of money or anything like that. It was your own. It was something that you just had.
Happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you married? Do you have
I'm single actually.
single? No kids
No kids.
that you know of? No.
No.
Guys can say that. Guys can say that. I do that. I know he gets something for that. I do that.
You guys,
Yeah.
it's so hot in here. How are you living through this?
I do. I haven't.
Put you in the hot seat, that's what we're saying.
So, is there anything that you wanted to bring up that we didn't know enough to ask you?
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about accountability, and I think that's something that is very important to the school district, and understanding who's accountable to who and where accountability leads you. The school board is accountable to essentially the community, the people who elected them, and the school district is accountable to the community as well, and the way it's executed is through its representatives, the school board. The superintendent reports to the school board and serves at the school board's discretion. So there was some confusion. I shouldn't say there was some confusion. There were some differences in opinion around the departure of our last superintendent. And I believe that related to a difference of opinion between what the school board should do and what their role is, which is to hold the school district leadership, primarily the superintendent, accountable, and also similarly, I feel like the superintendent may have had a difference of opinion in how accountable she was to the school board.
To the school board.
Right.
So you wanted her to be more accountable than she thought she had to be.
Right. And in board meetings, there were discussions around should we open a school without fully informing the school board or the community, essentially. Should we start educating 3-year-olds without a full board discussion around whether that's an area we want to be in? There are many instances where we actually had believed that we should have had more information before actions were taken and before things were executed. At the moment, we have recently discovered a theater in Brooklyn that the school board was neither informed that it was being built, nor was there a request for approval.
And this theater was to give kids practical hands-on.
Right. It's
experience
a wonderful black box theater,
Okay.
but in terms of
Cost.
process,
Yeah, process.
it's the people's money, and the board are the people's
And you're moving to
representatives.
Brooklyn in 10 years anyway.
Right.
10
Right.
years. But anyway, but if you have any students who want to get involved with the media arts, we're here for them in this public access station, and we can help them with learning how to run cameras and do interviews and lighting and all sorts of things. So
Oh.
we're here as an educational tool.
That would be wonderful. Mr. Lesko is actually presented
On
it
the
to
board.
on your board, right?
Yes.
And is working as a conduit to make that happen. So we're
Okay.
looking forward to it.
Well, I just wanted to make you personally, make the invitation personally.
right,
Okay,
thank
we're
you.
out of time. It's very important that when you
Okay.
came on our show, and I give you a lot of kudos because number one, you're putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort and maybe frustration too, but you're not getting paid a dime. We get a lot of politicians, at least it's a salary, it's a hard job for everybody, but here you're doing total volunteer work, and really kudos to you. You should continue with your good work and success and do it with good health.
Okay, all right. Thank you very
Continued
much.
success.
Thank you for having me.